Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a nice lunch break. I have the pleasure to open this closing session in the afternoon of our Covenant of Mayors Investment Forum, the Energy Efficiency Finance Marketplace. I briefly present myself. Dick Beckers, our director, made already a reference last week, yesterday to me. I'm the new head of unit of the Life Energy and Life Climate program in CNEA. This unit is a merger of different teams, a merger of the EASME Energy team and from the EASME Life Unit, the Climate team joined here together in one of the two life units in CNEA. And the new unit implements two sub-programs of the LIFE program. Again, the Clean Energy Transition sub-program and the Climate Change Mitigation and Climate Change Adaptation program. And foremost, we have a team of 40 committed professionals, and we are managing the legacy of the Horizon Energy program and the Life Climate projects. This makes already a large population of projects, so this is a large population of projects which were showcased during the last 1.5 days now during this conference. Andy Deacon, the Director of Strategy and Operations of the Global Covenant of Mayors, will present in a few minutes a summary of main messages that we can draw from this year's conference. However, I want to share with you a few numbers. We had over 900 registrations for this conference, which makes also the highest number of real participants, which were more than 500. We had also this year the highest number of projects presented to date, 44. And these 44 projects, in fact, were divided into 5 thematic strands. You saw them when choosing, in fact, one of the events or the sessions. They were from driving change locally to public investments in climate change adaptations. So these 5 thematic strands, they also illustrate the 2 initiatives which are supported. The demand side, helping implementing bodies on the ground to get out the best financing option in a complex financing landscape. And at the same time, on the supply side, enabling the financing community to invest in energy efficiency. And connect them during this conference, to connect them because we all should not only talk about each other, we should also talk together. This year, we added also one further strand, which were policy discussion fora, which reflected the latest policy developments in the European Commission and in the energy policy domain, as for instance, the Commission's Renovation Wave or other exceptional initiatives like the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub, but also, for instance, the European City Facility, just to name a few. In total, we had a high number of speakers, 150 speakers this time. And it was the first time, and believe me, I do hope the last time, edition, which was carried out fully remotely. So I really hope next time we come together again and we can do a real networking, not only a virtual one. So it was an experiment for us. And as I said, looking forward for a real meeting, a physical meeting next time. Now I give the floor to Andy, who will walk us through the highlights of this year's conference and summarize the main messages for us. Andy, please share your insights with us.
Christian, thank you very much for those remarks and for those impressive statistics as well. I never thought that I would say that I missed the foyer of the Crown Plaza Hotel in Place Rogier, but this year and in these complex and difficult times, I fear that may actually be true. And as you've noted, very different doing this in a virtual environment than in person. That said, it's been great to have such a rich picture on the latest state of play on investment solutions and finance for cities, local governments, and other partners. And would again like to express thanks to the technical team from Praxis and colleagues working behind the scenes for making that possible, and to the CNEA team and all of the other session coordinators and moderators. For what I witnessed, there's some fairly ruthless timekeeping, but also some deft moderation of the discussion during the sessions. And thanks to all attendees for the questions that came in. To recap briefly on some key points from each parallel track, and then to draw out a couple of themes. So on driving change locally, the projects under that strand clearly demonstrated the key role of cities and municipalities and regions in planning the energy transition. The innovative solutions and applications that have been developed, tested, and demonstrated have really helped local governments to overcome structural barriers and to step up the development of local plans and strategies, including their sustainable energy and climate action plans through the Covenant of Mayors and more broadly their transition roadmaps, and to do that with a really long-term horizon and perspective. There's also recognition that we need to devise and plan for the future now, given the long life cycles of critical investment challenges, including the decarbonisation of heating and cooling networks, the renovation of building stock, or the need to involve, empower, and build up the trust of citizens and other local stakeholders. From what was presented and discussed here, it's clear that local governments are key enablers of the energy transition and that they are successfully contributing to European climate and energy targets by developing innovative plans and policies and increasingly and importantly building on previous year's events, turning those into ambitious concrete projects. On financing energy efficiency in the public sector, the projects presented on behalf of the public sector demonstrate a number of innovative and creative ideas to implement efficiency projects, whether that's in buildings, street lighting, mobility, or other sectors. Solutions are diverse and have included assistance in project development and project acquisition, in the use of novel subsidy or financing schemes, in procurement or joint procurement between municipalities, crowdfunding and lending, involvement of energy services companies with novel approaches to shared savings and procurement, as well as the setup of revolving funds. And one more important topic that was addressed is strategic portfolio or asset management within and across and between public authorities to reduce the risk of technical and financial lock-in in the long term. So it's important to acknowledge really engaging strategically in a transition process towards longer term goals, but to do that with shorter term action in mind. And the relevant kind of non-climate benefits and approaches that take into account multiple benefits has really been highlighted in this track. It's still true that there are often relatively small project sizes, and there can be difficulties in matching some of those to appropriate financing solutions. And together with longer amortization periods, limited financial resources or financing restrictions on public administrations, as well as costs of project development and tendering are still kind of hampering rollout on the ground. But public authorities and other stakeholders active in this space are seeking technical and legal solutions to overcome some of those barriers to help to make energy efficiency a more standardized service. The projects presented are really helping to achieve national energy efficiency targets and are supporting the objectives of the European Green Deal, and they're fully in line with the principle of putting energy efficiency first, and very pleased to see those objectives and ambitions being reinforced. Then on the track on the renovation wave, very much focused on home renovation for part of it, and saw how the market offer for sustainable energy upgrades is still in parts fragmented, and in some cases still uncoordinated. And while most homeowners lack capacity to set up and supervise complex and often ambitious projects, many are also facing obstacles in assessing or making decisions about upfront financing and financial resources. As the renovation wave highlights, there's a need to develop a coordinated and coherent response to the difficulties faced by homeowners, and some of the other tracks that I'll come on to say something about in a moment, certainly trying to address financial components of that. So across these sessions, saw a number of examples of how integrated home renovation services offers could be developed, and plenty of discussion around how those could help facilitate increasing homeowner action by making the renovation process as painless as possible, but that kind of hassle factor still a barrier, and one where there is ongoing work to try to overcome it. On public investment in climate change adaptation, then we saw in that track how different projects and initiatives around Europe have found innovative ways to overcome the challenge of financing adaptation measures and nature-based solutions in their cities and regions. Some of that has been about developing and building the capacity to obtain funding around building awareness and gathering public support for initiatives that city decision makers are trying to take. There's been a lot of work around demonstrating the multiple benefits of action alongside the primary adaptation benefits. And in some cases, that's been key towards a transition towards really embracing broader urban resilience. We've heard from projects not only from cities, but also from a regional development bank and from the European Investment Bank. And that's really helped to bring a very rounded picture to the audience of some successful examples and potential next steps in obtaining funding to make cities more resilient. On innovative solutions for financing energy efficiency and renewables. So that strand looked at how investments are financed and basically how we can improve their financeability by engaging with banks and investment funds. We heard from initiatives trying to bring new perspectives on energy efficiency investment, not only in terms of the financial aspects, but again, in terms of other benefits of action in this space, including improvements to comfort, to productivity, or even image of buildings or areas. And these can really change the attractiveness of these types of investments. We also heard about de-risking and around the importance of services that are helping to de-risk investment, for example, through the provision of energy savings insurance or by providing energy efficiency as a service rather than as a wholly upfront investment. Several projects are trying to standardize across the life cycle of sustainable energy investments in order to lower the transaction costs for investors. And again, that's traditionally been a barrier to action in this area. And the on sale of future receivables from these types of contracts to investors has been an important step to free up working capital for project developers to continue to grow. Moving more towards capital markets, and we saw a little about how real estate investors are now integrating energy efficiency into their portfolio strategy because it's becoming an important part of sustainability benchmarks that are being deployed across the sector. And we also saw how the banking sector is moving towards energy efficiency on mortgages, which has massive implications for the balance sheet of banks, as well as for that want to finance and indeed improve the environment for their home acquisition. So that strand really buzzing with new ideas, but also some very concrete solutions that are helping to make energy efficiency investments more attractive, and that also linked to some of the discussion in the final track in the discussion forums, for example, from the Energy Efficiency of Financial Institutions group. So the discussion forums hosted some very rich discussion between European institutions, regions, cities, representatives, and a wide range of market stakeholders. For example, very good discussion on the renovation wave and how that's working at regional and municipal level, which was discussed. with representatives of the Commission and the Rapporteur for this topic from the European Committee of the Regions Commission for the Environment. So really engaging some key decision makers in this area. Municipalities and both public and private finance institutions shared some of their experience in triggering sustainable energy investments at municipal level, and the support that's being provided through the European City Facility as part of that process. Those aspects were also discussed by members of EFIG, who debated how financial instruments can contribute to scaling up the energy renovation of housing across Europe, and also the co-benefits of energy renovation and green loans. Citizens clearly have a central role in the clean energy transition, and the renovation wave strategy is highlighting the need to develop a coordinated and coherent response to the needs of homeowners and occupiers in order to make their renovation process as painless as possible. And this has been a theme that's emerged and been repeated across a number of the tracks. But one session in the discussion forums was dedicated to analysing the concept of integrated home renovation services, looking at local experiments and models running across Europe, and another session focused also on addressing the important issues around energy poverty alleviation and initiatives running in a number of European municipalities, as well as hearing from the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. The role of local and regional authorities in fostering community energy was also discussed, based on some collaboration models from France and Belgium that are linking together cities and energy communities. And market stakeholders that are undergoing renovation works also have a key role in clean energy transition. A roundtable was also organised by the Smart City Marketplace with some key players from the ESCO market who shared their views on that market, but also on how to support companies in addressing legal, regulatory and other obstacles that they face. So overall, each of the tracks have shown that the situation on these issues continues to advance. Our understanding of risk and benefit in its broadest sense, and where the real pinch points are in delivering in our municipalities, continue to evolve. Great strides are being made in delivery on the ground, and approaches are starting to scale. But the challenge ahead remains enormous, and all of us have a key role to play in that, whether that's in research and development, in policy, in private finance, banking and investment, or indeed right across all levels of the public sector. Some of those key themes that did emerge and stuck in my mind and do build on discussions from previous years' versions of this event are around the importance of capturing, quantifying and making apparent the multiple benefits of action, on early action to avoid long-term lock-in, and building an understanding of investment cycles and the way in which to engage in those, both as public authorities, but also for those from the private sector too, and around project portfolio management for financial purposes and for the balancing and understanding of risk in the bringing together of the public and private sectors. And again, our understanding and implementation skills in each of those areas is continuing to move forward at pace, thanks to support from the European Commission and from elsewhere. Just in closing, my remarks, local governments and mayors remain important connectors within this ecosystem. They're really bringing all of the relevant local players together and looking to develop and deploy ambitious solutions to the climate crisis. They can't, though, act alone. In these times of endless Zoom meetings with colleagues being on mute or sometimes not muted when they don't mean to be or indeed should be, and occasionally choppy or poor internet connections and failing audio, I encourage everybody to build on the connections that they've made in the last day and a half and through the series of sessions. If you didn't have an opportunity to ask somebody a question that you wanted to, then do take the time to follow up and do that, or even if you've only just thought of something that you wanted to ask, then make the opportunity to continue to build on that. momentum is continuing to build. And we at the Global Covenant of Mayors look forward to drawing on the rich exchange of experience and all of the examples presented through this event, and to build on them and to share these across our network. And we have significant new activity on that planned thanks to new European Commission support, that's continuing to come on stream through 2021. In this crucial year for climate action, with a lot of expectation pinned on COP26 later in the year, the event has again highlighted how local action can drive much needed national ambition, can engage with private sector, community energy proponents and other key stakeholders, but is really demonstrating how local actors are moving forward on emissions reduction, on energy poverty and on climate adaptation. And again, I just exhort everybody to do everything that we can in the coming months and years. Thank you, Christian, and back to you.
Thank you, Andy, for this inspiring and let's say, motivating message. Very much thanks for also the comprehensive overview, in fact, of the discussions and the main takeaways from the last 1.5 days in this context, which we spent together here in this conference. I also want to thank at this moment all speakers and moderators in the different sessions, because they made the event lively and inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, the essence and the unique place of this conference is, in fact, to have the practitioners meet to offer concrete experiences of successful initiatives and models, which help plan and finance sustainable energy and climate projects. Initiatives which pioneered new concepts and found novel solutions. We heard a lot of the pressing needs to meet our energy and climate targets, and we do hope that the project journeys offer you real solutions, inspiration and confidence in your journey in the energy transition. Perhaps you're interested what are my personal takeaways of this conference. It's my first Covenant of Mayor conference this year. When listening to some of the sessions during the last 2 days, obviously nobody can follow all of them, but with valuable support of Andy, we got a good overview now. My 3 takeaways, which I, witnessed during the days are, it's a snapshot, and I would say the first one was very interesting and a smiling one for me, because somebody mentioned that the fantastic slogans coming from Brussels, coming from the Brussels public, like Green Deal, the Climate Pact, EED, they do not change anything on the ground. It has to go down to earth to have an impact on the expected results, which we all want. I can only share this statement. At the same time, in this context, somebody said, okay, it's also important for local actors to know the larger picture, to know and feel not being alone to fight climate change, to adapt to changing climate conditions, to act in a broader context, not being alone, to act in the European picture and addressing the emerging needs. And they are emerging, we know that. I think all around the virtual table here strongly believe in that. I think both statements, the slogans coming from Europe, but also the groundwork embedded in a policy context are needed, and our conference these 2 days responded to exactly these 2 statements. Second, I also listened to the energy poverty session. This is very much a social agenda point. And of course, it's enshrined in the Green Deal, message, saying, in fact, nobody is to be left behind. And again, it needs action on the ground, embedded and supported by networks like, for instance, the European networks, Energy Poverty Observatory, or the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. Poverty considerations added to the rather technical and financial aspects of energy efficiency and climate change add a social dimension to that, and which is very much expected from the European citizens all over our continent. I listened to a project story in Manchester, actions on the ground with reference to emotional labor. So going into a household, and these are not the rich households, these are the poorer households, going into a household and delivering energy bill reductions, this is also a crucial crucial work to be done on the ground to have an impact everywhere. And thirdly, I heard the call, we need an energy revolution in order to change what needs to be changed. So that does not need a further comment. So these were my three takeaways when I zoomed into some of the very interesting sessions, I must say. Now, we come to the last part of the event, which is made of two interesting components. The first one is the virtual fair. We host a virtual fair now, right after this event, now after this closing session, until 5 o'clock. The fair has always been an essential part of the conference. Unfortunately, as I said, this year we will not be able to welcome you on site, but we try to give you technically the best possible virtual solution and experience. You will be able to walk through an interactive virtual fair, which will give the feeling of walking through a real exhibition. You will find there 15 institutional stands, of which 3 come from the Green Deal Agency from us, from CINEA. The CINEA Life program has a stand, the CINEA Horizon Europe Transport program has a stand, and CINEA Innovation Fund has a stand. Further to that, there are other stands, for instance, the European Commission with EGRTD, with the Joint Research Center. We have also a stand from the Committee of the Regions. And now I quote all of them. We have a stand of the European Investment Bank, a stand of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. We have the European Energy Efficiency Fund there as a stand, Smart Cities Marketplace, the portals, or the portal on buildings, so-called the Build Up portal, our European City Facility, the EIT Climate Kick, the EIT Urban Mobility, and the Interreg Europe. These are the stands, these are the 15 institutional stands which you can visit now. Each stand will offer you different functionalities. You will be able to consult first documents, to download documents in the PDF format. You will also be able to connect with the selected institution. There will be business cards of the stand holders, which you can of course note down and contact them later on. But you also will be able to connect with them in the platform that is available throughout the event. And most importantly, you will be able to meet with the stand owners. All the stands have a dedicated Zoom meeting room where you can ask all your questions and set up one-to-one meetings. Parallel to this virtual fair, we will hold now also at 2:30 a session on the life clean energy transition and life climate change adaptation and mitigation sub-programs. These sessions will give a first overview about the new LIFE program and these sub-programs. Last but not least, I would like to encourage you to use the networking platform, which is also available embedded in the conference website, via which you can interact with other participants and speakers. I may also refer to a satisfaction survey in the coming days. Please fill it in. We're looking forward for your feedback. These feedbacks are very important for us to prepare the future sessions and editions of the Covenant of Mayors Forum. Once more, I would like to thank all of you who made the conference a success, who made the conference even possible, speakers, moderators, Andy as rapporteur, and of course, all of you who are connected across Europe to follow these inspiring presentations and discussions. Special thank also to the Covenant of Mayors office, and as well as special regard to the organizing team in my unit, in CINEA, in DG Energy, and in DG Climate. And also, not to forget, the excellent support from our technical team from Praxis. Let's imagine now and feel the applause happening just now. Thanks to everybody. Now, I'm looking forward to meeting you next year. Thank you. I'm looking forward to meeting you next year, as I said, in person. So, and I'm very confident that we will meet again, and wish you now a nice afternoon, or see you in a minute in the other session about the LIFE program 21 to 27. Thank you very much. and wish you a good afternoon. Thank you.